My deal fell through, even though I had the DST as a backstop. It felt like a backstop. It felt like, okay, it didn't work, but here's my second best choice. It's better than paying the tax man, right? At least that was my initial feeling. And really disappointed I couldn't get those 21 units because I was just going to keep moving up, right? As we continued to dig into it and really kind of understand what the opportunity looked like, this light started kind of shining and kind of going, you know what? Maybe this is okay. Maybe this is going to be okay. Maybe there's an opportunity here to potentially have these dollars on the sideline, and I can go and find more syndicated deals, right? As I said, I'm in 4 of them today. Maybe there's an opportunity to continue to do that. Instead of getting the 3% return and spending, I've got a day job already, where I'm a vice president in a small software firm. I already spend 40, 50 hours a week at that job. And then on top of it, right, trying to do this kind of nights and weekends and piecing that together. Maybe I don't have to do that, right? Maybe I don't have to grind like I would have with the 21 unit building. And I can take those dollars and maybe putting them into a syndication, right?
Hey, welcome everybody. That was Steve Prince, a client of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We're sharing client deal stories and success stories. And I'm Brett Swarts. This is Dan Palmer. Dan, there's a song that I heard from Garth Brooks. It's one of my favorite ones. It's called God, Unanswered Prayers, right? And some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers, right? Sometimes we think we want something, right? We think it's the only way to go. It's what's going to give us the thing that we want on the other side of that, and then it doesn't happen, and then you look back and go, oh wow, well I'm actually really glad that God didn't answer that prayer. I want to relate that to Steve and what he just said here in a minute, but I'm curious, like, what comes to mind when you think about Garth Brooks, God's unanswered prayers?
Great song, first of all. I think the Bible verse that goes along with it is, in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. So, like, even when we think something's bad or difficult or didn't go the way we want, you can have faith that somehow it's going to turn to our good over time. And I think that's what Garth Brooks is talking about. Like, hey, sometimes you want this certain girl, it doesn't work out. And if it would have worked out, you would have never met this better girl who's supposed to be your wife that you ended up meeting down the road. But in the moment, you can't see that. You only see the thing that you want. And it's true about business too. We have opportunities and we're like, we really want this deal to go through, and it doesn't. And then we find out down the road, oh, I'm so glad it didn't, because now I have this better situation that I can jump into now.
Absolutely, and that's what comes to the story of Steve Prince. And by the way, Steve Prince, you can see his full client success story when he exited his apartment complex in Sacramento, California, and he was facing a large, huge capital gains tax. And this is a number of years ago. And in fact, like he said in the beginning, he initially thought he wanted to do a 1031 exchange, like most of our investment real estate clients before they meet us. That's their primary way of deferring tax, the primary way of building wealth. Buy a set of units, increase the rents by renovation, and then turn around and sell a couple of years later, and then roll in 1031 exchange the proceeds into the next property and just keep levering up. And so the property he was talking about was a 21 unit in Antelope, California. He was selling a 7 unit in downtown Sacramento. And at this point, downtown Sacramento was just red hot, doing really, really well. And I think we sold it for $250,000 or $260,000 a unit. He had done the renovations. He had bought it at a great price. He had a massive gain, was facing huge tax. And in his mind, the answered prayer, or the answered for what he wanted for the next investment, was this next 21 units. In fact, his father and mother and him and his brothers and sisters grew up in Napa, California, and their whole life was real estate and doing just that, buying and renovating, 1031ing, buying and renovating and 1031ing and owning. And his family amassed over $30 million in multifamily properties. And so this was his opportunity now to kind of go on his own. So it was his first deal, and in his mind, I'm going to do what mom and dad did for a long time. And so when he was going for that property, again, he said at first, I really wanted this 21 unit. And I remember because I toured the properties with him. At that point, I was still practicing brokerage and helping people buy and sell properties, and then doing the Deferred Sales Trust along the side of it. And I'll never forget, like, kind of touring the properties, looking at it, and the numbers we just couldn't make sense of. And I said, Steve, like, honestly, like, how good would it be to be out of debt, to free up more of your time, he said, I'm already working so many hours, right? And Dan, what he really wanted was, I think, truly passive income, which is what we want to teach you guys about what we believe about that. So Dan, what is truly passive income? And based upon what Steve was saying, he maybe not knew what he wanted, but what is it, and how do we help people unlock that?
Yeah, you're like a decade younger than me, so I heard exactly what you heard, but the word that stood out in my mind is he said, maybe I don't have to grind. And, I'm in my mid 50s, and a lot of guys my age, they've been grinding for a long time. You figure you get out of college at 21, 22, now you're in your 50s, and you've just been going through marriage, through kids, through paying all the bills, getting your kids through college, and it can really feel like a grind. And so what he's saying is, maybe I can do something where instead of working a second job, instead of managing a property and dealing with tenant rights and rising insurance costs and rising capital gain costs and all the other taxes and fees and repairs that you have to do, maybe I can find a way to exit and have that money be invested and have the passive cash flow come to us. And that's really what our strategy does, is it creates an opportunity for people to kind of step out, defer the capital gains tax, invest the full proceeds into another investment vehicle that kicks off a durable return. And that return can just hit their bank account every month. Imagine it's $1 million and it's going to get 10% net of fees. Just as an example, it's 100,000. It's about 8,300 a month. So 8,300 a month, 8,300 for 10 years, and they look, and that million is still sitting there in the trust, and they've had this steady flow of passive cash flow. I call it the hen that lays the golden egg. Like, hey, don't touch the principal. It's the hen that lays the golden egg, and the golden egg is 8,300 a month, 8,300. And so what I hear him saying is, how do I get out to where I don't have to work a side job and have or a main job and the real estate's on the side, and I'm burning out, I'm spinning my wheels, I'm going through life and the years are running by and I can't get free and I'm trapped and I'm grinding. That word grinding will just stick in my head all day because I just heard it and I heard the heart behind it, because almost all of us have been there where we're like, yeah, I'm just grinding. I'm working so hard and it's difficult and I'm trying to make it for me and my family and my future. How do I get out of this? How do I get that passive cash flow that you're talking about, Brett?
Yeah, so here's a thought I want everyone to think about right now, and you who's listening to this, and you might feel like you're in a similar situation or season that Steve's in, right? The kids are somewhere between junior high and high school. You're looking at the amount of hours you're putting into work. You have these real estate properties that are doing very well, right? And they're taking up some time and some energy and some stress. And I think a lot of times you may not know how much it really is. In fact, a lot of our clients tell us it takes about 3 to 6 months after they sell and they use our services, and they build the trust, and it's passive like Dan's talking about, but it's truly passive, right? Then all of a sudden it's like the weight off their shoulders and they go, wow, I don't have to grind so hard. In fact, my original prayer was to get to a certain amount of units and a certain amount of $8, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a month, whatever that number is for you or more. And that was what I was going for. But what I found is I was building this ladder on this wall. And each time I got to another step on the ladder, I thought it would be more passive. But in fact, it became more intense, bigger loan dollars, more units, more toilets, more trash, more termites, more problems, right? And the phone just doesn't stop ringing or being text or something, even though you have a good manager. By the way, he had a great property manager, right? He grew up in the real estate business. He's a really smart investor, right? So it's not as if he doesn't have the skill set. And so the thought here is, don't trade what's priceless for what's profitable. Don't trade what's priceless for what's profitable, because we believe that truly passive income is to your freedom and impact as compounding interest is to your money. And when you really focus on what's priceless, I know for Steve, it was more time with his son. I know it was more time, with his family. I know it was not having to deal with as much, especially in California, where Dan and I are originally from, and where Steve is still at right now. The amount of intensity that the state puts on landlords these days is very different than 10, 20, 30 years ago. It has changed drastically. And you have to ask yourself, is my plan still working out for me, right? The plan that I had originally, just a 1031 exchange, just to get more units, just do the swap until you drop. And we're speaking from experience. I grew up in a family who had the same exact mindset and practice. They were building and buying properties in the Bay Area, working and working and working. And by the way, if this is your passion and you're calling to provide housing and to do that, by all means, we don't ever want to stop that. In fact, we want to enhance that with our strategy, help you to buy back when you want to buy, to develop when you want to develop, and not be stuck in the 1031 exchange. And so it's interesting, Dan, he said, hey, I wanted to be able to invest into some syndications, right? So it's not as if he couldn't invest into real estate. He's just going to do it in a way where he actually got freed up his time, right? And the investments can be in the investments. And so that's the thing too. Sometimes it's the power of Dan, like knowing that it's not just the way that I thought I had to do it myself. I can still invest into real estate, but if it frees up my time, wow, that's the most valuable thing. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, our kind of motto for our company is Capital Gains Tax Solutions exists to unlock capital gains and multiply freedom and impact. And the unlocking is the piece where people get trapped, where on paper, they're wealthy and free. So like my net worth says that I'm wealthy and that my future is taken care of, but it's locked up in a real asset that they can't sell, because if they sell it, they're going to get crushed by capital gains tax. So even though on paper you look like you're free, you're actually trapped. You're locked up. You have to keep grinding, and we help unlock that and multiply freedom. And I think that's what you're talking right now, the freedom to say, hey, I don't have to manage this anymore. I don't have to work a regular job as a VP and then do my real estate stuff on the side because I can't exit anything. I don't have to go 1031 and buy stuff that I don't want because I got this timing restriction that I've got to identify and close in a certain period of time. And so I'm reaching out and trying to grab anything that'll help me just kind of move to that next deferral stage. We can help with all of those things. And that's why, if you go onto our YouTube channel and you watch the videos, you'll just see client after client that says, oh, feels so good to be free. And that truly passive cash flow is what creates true freedom, because now the money's coming. It's not reliant on you performing a task or doing a job or being an employee or getting the next 1031 exchange so that you can create more depreciation to offset whatever income you have so you don't lose it all to tax. There's just a lot of benefits and a lot of potential for people with our structure. And that's why I think these videos are so powerful. You hear a real story from a real person that you can resonate with. We've all been there. We've all been exactly what we listened to in the beginning. We've all been right there going, what do I do next? I'm kind of stuck. I want to be free. I want passive cash flow, but I don't have it. And I'm not really sure if my strategy is ever going to get me there, because how can it? I'm just going to keep 1031ing. So I think that's the power in it, Brett.
100%. And by the way, if you have a live deal right now of $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain on the sale of a business, real estate, it can be investment or primary home. It could be stock. It could be SpaceX stock, Anthropic that's coming up, OpenAI. It could be Bitcoin. And you have a large exit, or you're an advisor who serves clients that are exiting. We want to encourage you to set a no-cost consultation call by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to be able to set a time with one of our team members. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. So I want to give you an exercise now because I think this is kind of the thing that helps bring this to life, okay? And it's really getting clear on your truly passive income number. Again, we believe that it's to your freedom and impact, right? Once you unlock this number. And it's such a big piece of what we call financial, time freedom, right? And it starts with what is your current monthly expenses, and your lifestyle, right? Your lifestyle. B, how much is your current income is actually passive. You're not trading your time and your energy for it. And then C, even if you have some passive income, what if we could, 2x that amount, right? We have another client deal story with Warren and Catherine on our YouTube channel. If you just go to Capital Gains Tax Solutions and then you click on the playlist, you can see all of these stories. But for them, their NOI on their property was about $120,000. It's a $2.5 million multifamily property also in Sacramento. And so we were able to increase their cash on cash return from about 120 to about 190. It's about a 60% increase, right? And that change alone, plus decreasing all of the time that Warren was spending at the property, that's the transformational piece, when you can compound the ability to decrease your time and energy and increase your cash flow. And so just looking at what's called an ROE, your return on equity, like your current properties. And a good example, let's say you had a $10 million business or even Bitcoin or stock or real estate. And let's just say the real estate's producing, $100,000 of return, right? Well, that's not that great, right? What if it could produce, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of cash on cash return, right? And that's the whole idea. It's not just, is it passive and is it producing, but how can I get it to get to this number? So let's just say your number is, $50,000 a month, if that's your number, right? And you're at, let's say $10,000 a month, and the delta is $40,000. So what if you could take one sale of one asset and move it into something that's truly passive, right? Tax efficient or tax deferred, and then the ability to live off the cash flow and just pay taxes to receive that. But it gives you that delta, or it gets you a little bit closer to that number of $50,000 per month. And so that's the exercise, right? Figure out your ROE, your current return on equity, your cash on cash return on each of your assets. Number two, how much time and energy is it taking up from you, right? Is it passive or active? And then number three, what is your truly passive income number? And then you can schedule a call with us and we'll help you to work through this. Hey, we hope that this inspires you today. We also hope that you look at not just your current family situation, but also ways that you can give and make an impact, right? If you can unlock that capital. A lot of mistakes I think people make when they're looking at estate planning and tax planning is they're waiting for the someday event, the someday of a stepped up basis, the someday to give it to that charity, the someday to finally pay off all of the debt. Well, if we can help you increase your cash on cash return by 2 or 3 times right now, could you give more, make an impact right now, right, with your family or the causes that you believe in, as well as free yourself from the grind? And so that's my encouragement to you. I'm Brett Swarts. He's Dan Palmer. Take action today. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Please share this with someone it can be of inspiration to and helpful. And also pick up the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It's for advisors and owners of highly appreciated assets that will kind of want a playbook. And it's our journey from figuring this thing out from many, many years ago after the 2008 crash, the hard way. We want to give you the easy way. We want to put it in your hands. Just go to Amazon or go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Look up Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. I'm Brett Swarts. He's Dan Palmer. And we'll talk to you again next time. Thanks so much.